Hello and welcome to a new essay forum as far as Indus News is concerned. Live from Islamabad, I'm Hamza Rifat and these are the headlines. In Afghanistan, heavy fighting has been reported between Taliban forces and resistance fighters in Panjshir Valley. The Taliban say they inflicted heavy losses on the National Resistance Front and gained some territory. But the NRF claimed that they have full control of the passes to the valley and thwarted the Taliban's efforts to take the Shotol district. Pakistan says it will engage with whichever government Afghans choose for themselves. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi made these remarks in a press conference with his British counterpart Dominic Raab. Raab said the United Kingdom will not accept the Taliban government and London's approach towards them will be based on their actions. Israeli troops have martyred another Palestinian as they opened fire on the anti-blockade protesters in Gaza Strip. Gaza's health ministry said at least 15 others are also wounded. Mexico has registered nearly 1,000 daily deaths from COVID-19 and more than 18,000 new cases. In Pakistan, the virus claimed 57 more lives and infected almost 3,800 people overnight. Globally, the coronavirus death toll is over 4.54 million, while the caseload has exceeded 219 million. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay tuned to Indus News. Welcome back. Now, the Taliban are expected to announce the formation of a new government in Afghanistan today. Taliban leader says preparations are underway for the ceremony inside the presidential palace.
The Taliban have already appointed administrative officials for various provinces and regions. The country's flag carrier, Haryana-Afghani Alliance, has said domestic flights are set to resume today, while in Herat, dozens of Afghan women have demonstrated to demand their rights to employment and education. Meanwhile, a Taliban spokesperson also said China has promised to keep its embassy open and increase humanitarian aid to Afghanistan. Suhail Shaheen added that the UK and Germany also pledged to boost assistance and future cooperation with the Taliban. The UN says it has resumed humanitarian flights to parts of the country and 3 planes have arrived in Mazar-e-Sharif so far. Earlier, the US Treasury Department said it is not easing sanctions on the Taliban or loosening restrictions on their access to global financial system.
Now, Pakistan says it will engage with whichever government Afghans choose for themselves. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi made these remarks in a press conference with his British counterpart Dominic Raab. Qureshi said the two sides have established enhanced strategic dialogue platform. He said the two had constructive discussions on a variety of bilateral issues. Qureshi also said Pakistan has undertaken various steps to ensure that it gets off the FATF's grey list. For his part, Raab said the UK will not accept the Taliban government and London's approach towards them will be based on their actions. The Foreign Secretary said Britain will continue to provide aid to Afghanistan on humanitarian grounds. He also thanked Pakistan for safely evacuating British citizens from Afghanistan. He further said no one wants to see the social and economic fabric of the country broken down. He said it would not have been possible to evacuate some 15,000 people from Kabul without the Taliban's cooperation. Now, Pakistan says the international community should remain engaged with Afghanistan to ensure economic stability. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said it in a telephonic conversation with his Slovenian counterpart Anza Loga. The foreign minister underlined that the EU can play a pivotal role in this regard. Qureshi also highlighted the salience of an inclusive political settlement. Earlier, in a telephonic conversation with the Austrian foreign minister, Qureshi called for intensive efforts to stabilize Afghanistan's security situation and preclude any exodus of refugees. Schallenberg thanked Islamabad for its support in facilitating the transit of Austrian nationals and others from Kabul. Heavy fighting is reported between Taliban forces and resistance fighters in Afghanistan's Panjshir Valley. The Taliban said they have taken some territory and inflicted heavy losses on their national resistance front. But the NRF said it has control of all entrances to the valley, and the Taliban had lost hundreds of fighters. Earlier talks between the two sides ended without conclusion, while both blamed each other for the failure. The Panjshir Valley is the epicenter of Afghan guerrilla warfare. It has long withstood foreign occupation from the British Empire's army to Soviet forces and the Taliban. Israeli troops have martyred another Palestinian as they opened live fire on the anti-blockade protesters in Gaza Strip. Gaza's health ministry says the 26-year-old Ahmad Saleh was shot in the abdomen. It said at least 15 others are wounded, including 5 children, while one of them is in critical condition. Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas met his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Jordan's King Abdullah in Cairo. Abbas said Israel's actions have made a two-state solution impossible, but he's ready to take confidence-building measures and restore calm. Syria says it has intercepted an Israeli aerial attack targeting multiple locations in the capital Damascus. Syrian state media said Israel launched a number of missiles from Lebanon's airspace. It said most of the missiles were downed by the army and the strikes only caused material damage. Syrian Foreign Ministry called on the UN Security Council to press Israel to stop violating citizens' rights in the occupied Golan Heights. It said the international bodies must intervene immediately to enable citizens to return to their towns. Now, the Yemeni army says it has killed at least 140 Houthi rebels in the renewed fighting in the central province of Marib. In an interview, the army's military media director said these clashes are the most aggressive since the last 5 years.
Yemen's Houthi rebels have intensified their attacks on government positions in an attempt to break through the defenses and capture the city of Marib. But Yemeni army said government forces backed by the Arab coalition had succeeded in fending off the latest assaults. The military media director said 41 sorties of coalition jets raided dozens of Houthi targets and resulted in major losses for the group. The Arab media quoted Yemeni sources as saying that a senior Houthi leader, Mohammed Hussein al-Houthi, has also been killed in an air raid. However, in a televised speech, Houthis' top leader Abdul Malik Houthi said the group will continue to fight until it seizes back all areas. He said the US and Israeli regime are the main beneficiaries of the ongoing Yemen war. Meanwhile, a government body overseeing displacement camps in Yemen said many families have been forced to flee villages in Rahaba due to the indiscriminate shelling. Earlier, the Arab coalition intercepted an explosives-laden drone launched by the Houthis toward the Saudi city of Khamis Mushayed. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken expressed a strong commitment to U.S.-Saudi strategic partnership and to helping Riyadh defend its people and territory.
Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has called for launching cargo shipments via the Northern Sea route from next year. He made the remarks while addressing an event in the city of Vladivostok in Russia's Far East. He stressed to carefully and swiftly assess the prospects for such a transport corridor. Putin said the route is the future for shipping between Europe and Asia. He said Russia will not restrict other countries from using the route across its northern flank. Moscow is investing in infrastructure to develop the Northern Sea route, and the country aims to make it a major shipping lane as the Arctic warms at a faster rate than the rest of the world. In America, the death toll from flash flooding in 4 northeastern states has risen to at least 46. Remnants of Hurricane Ida unleashed torrential rains, mainly in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. More than 170,000 homes remain without power, and an emergency has been declared across the region. Emergency workers and rafts rescued people trapped in their homes and cars. President Joe Biden has ordered federal assistance to supplement local response efforts amid the harsh weather conditions. The president also said historic investment is needed to deal with the climate crisis. In the United States, at least 4 people have died and 2 others got injured after a small plane crashed into a building in Connecticut. Officials say the accident happened due to a mechanical failure. They say the jet with 2 pilots and 2 passengers on board took off the Robertson Airport and was headed to North Carolina. Authorities have launched an investigation into the tragic incident. A British-born Islamic State militant has pleaded guilty to 8 criminal charges in the United States. Alexander Cote is one of 2 Islamic State members who the U.S. military held in Iraq and then flew to the United States to face trial. Cote is accused of belonging to the ISIS cell dubbed the Beatles, which was involved in kidnappings in Iraq and Syria. The cell was also allegedly responsible for the beheadings of a number of Western and Japanese hostages. The terrorism charges include hostage-taking resulting in death and conspiracy to murder American citizens. The charges carried potential death sentences, but American authorities have advised British officials that American prosecutors will not seek the death penalty against him. Mexico has registered nearly 1,000 daily deaths from COVID-19 and more than 18,000 new cases. Globally, the coronavirus death toll is over 4.54 million, while the caseload has exceeded 219 million. More in this report.
New COVID-19 variants, more vaccine controversies and protests against the mandatory COVID-19 vaccination rules continue to dampen the efforts to fight against the pandemic. The new Mu variant, first identified in January in Colombia, has now become the country's dominant strain, driving its deadliest outbreak. After the reports that the Latin American region is in grave need of vaccines, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has signed off a law allowing for vaccines and medication patents to be broken into public emergency. Meanwhile, the European Union has agreed to send millions of vaccine doses made in South Africa back to the continent. South Africa will also stop sending more doses to Europe amid reports that Africa struggles with vaccination drive, partly due to a lack of supply. In Greece, government offered unvaccinated healthcare workers a second chance to get a shot and allow those suspended to return to work. However, hundreds of workers continue to protest against mandatory jabs.
This measure is unfair. Government need to rethink it. Our unvaccinated colleagues are afraid, or they have their reasons, but all of them are not anti-vaccine. The government needs to realize that we are in the middle of the fourth wave, and they are adding 10,000 jobs that needs to be filled along with thousands of personnel needed in the sector. What are the hospitals going to do in this fourth wave? As beds are filling up?
New Zealand has reported a big drop in daily cases compared to the last few days as the country breaks the chain of transmission of the Delta variant. Australia has secured 4 million Pfizer doses in a swap deal with the UK as Prime Minister Scott Morrison urged states to stick to a national reopening plan. However, a steady rise in infections in Sydney, Melbourne from the Delta variant stoked concerns in virus-free states. Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ordered a tougher epidemic prevention campaign after turning down vaccines offered via the UN-backed program.
Pakistan has registered 57 deaths from coronavirus over the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the nationwide tally of fatalities has crossed 26,000. The ministry said the virus infected nearly 3,800 people overnight. The country's caseload has exceeded 1.17 million, while over 1,055,000 have recovered. Health officials further said over 90,000 cases are active, of which more than 5,600 are critical. Pakistan has administered over 58 million COVID-19 shots to date. More news on the other side. Stay tuned to Indus News. Welcome back. Now, staying with Pakistan, funeral prayers in absentia of Kashmiri veteran Sayyid Ali Gilani was held in Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. Pakistan's President Arif Alvi, as well as the top military and political leadership of the country, attended the prayer. A number of Kashmiri parliamentarians were also present at the funeral. Earlier, Indian authorities in the occupied Jammu and Kashmir refused to let Gilani's family have a public funeral. They buried him in the dead of the night after snatching his body from his family. Meanwhile, they have also extended a lockdown imposed in the valley in the aftermath of Gilani's death. Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga says he will not run for re-election as party leader this month. Suga announced his intention to resign at an emergency meeting of senior members of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. In a press briefing, Suga said he wants to focus on anti-coronavirus measures. Suga took over last September, but his approval ratings have sunk to an all-time low over the pandemic handling in Japan. Ruling party officials said Suga will finish his term as president. This means he will stay on until his successor is chosen in the party-wide election slated for September 29th. In New Zealand, police have shot dead a man after he stabbed at least 6 shoppers at Auckland supermarket. Authorities say 3 of those wounded are in critical condition and 1 in serious condition. At a briefing, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern described the incident as a terror attack. Ardern said the attacker was a Sri Lankan national who had been in New Zealand for 10 years. She noted the man had been a person of interest for about 5 years. The Prime Minister said the violent extremist was inspired by the Islamic State militant group. A police commissioner said there is no further risk as the attacker was acting alone. In Thailand, anti-government protesters plan more demonstrations to demand Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha's resignation. The Prime Minister is also facing a grilling in the parliament in a censure debate that started earlier this week. Thousands took to the streets of the capital Bangkok and pledged to return every day until the Premier leaves office. The rally was one of the biggest of the year despite a ban on gatherings due to coronavirus restrictions. Another smaller protest also took place near the Prime Minister's residence in another part of the city. Prayut and 5 other ministers have already been accused of corruption and mismanagement by the opposition. Now on to Africa now. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, 12 people died following a tailings leak from the Katoka diamond mine in Angola in July. The environmental minister said over 4,500 people also fell sick as the Shikapa River turned red. She said nearly 1 million residents of the region are directly or indirectly affected in the southern Kasai province. Authorities have banned people from drinking the river's water after tons of fish died as the result of the spill. Authorities said they will ask for reparations for the damage caused. Waste material from Angola's biggest diamond mine leaked into a river last month, filling waterways with sediment before the breach was sealed. An 11-year-old Parisian boy has found his own way of helping to protect the environment by fishing metal objects from the Seine River. More in this report.
Everything started when Rafael first saw YouTube videos of people fishing objects out of rivers with magnets in 2019. Soon after, he got his first magnet for Christmas and saw it as a way to do something for the planet.
J'ai l'impression d'agir pour la planète.
I feel like I'm doing something for the planet, even if it is not much on my own small level, but at least I'm doing something. Some who are 10 or 11 years old stay at home and play soccer. Well, at 11 years old, I know I'm cleaning up. Not the entire planet, but I'm still cleaning up.
In a year and a half, Rafael has finished about 300 bikes, 200 scooters and 100 shipping trolleys out of the Seine and Paris canals. He has also fished several odd items, including handguns, a German rifle, an artillery shell, and a jewel adorned with a precious stone. Rafael wants to raise awareness about the climate change and hopes it encourages others to also step up their efforts to save the planet.
Le but, c'est de sensibiliser.
My goal is to raise awareness so that a maximum of people do something. They don't have to do what I do, but at least do something. Even if it's not necessarily cleaning up canals, it could just be picking up a cigarette butt.
In October 2020, he was awarded the Medal of Paris, a distinction for people who accomplished a remarkable deed concerning the city. An exhibition with some of Rafael's treasures and items most commonly found in the Seine will open later this month in Paris.
Time now for some commercial updates. European markets are trading mixed as investors monitored key economic indicators out of the Eurozone and the United States. CAC 40 in Paris gained more than 0.25%. The Pan-European Stock 600 and the FTSE MIB in Italy both shed marginally. However, Frankfurt's DAX and FTSE in London gained fractionally. Earlier stocks in the Asia-Pacific also traded mixed. Now for weather updates, we have Munib Hamid with us.
Welcome to the weather forecast. Now we're going to start with Abu Dhabi, where the weather is expected to be extremely hot, with temperatures rising to 41 degrees Celsius, while in Amsterdam, cloudy weather is expected, while temperatures steady at 21. Now if we head to Ankara, there is partly sunny weather with temperatures at 24. Moving down under to Auckland, the temperature is chilly at 17, with also partly sunny sky. Now if you are traveling to Bangkok, there will be a thunderstorm with temperatures around 30. In Beijing, temperatures are at 30 degrees Celsius, accompanied with partial sunny sky, while Beirut will also experience partly sunny weather with temperatures at 30. Meanwhile, Berliners will experience temperatures at 22 degrees Celsius, accompanied with sunny sky. Now heading to Cairo, the sun will be out with temperatures at 36 with clear sunny sky in the forecast, and down under into Canberra, the temperatures are at 20 with the thin layer of clouds in the sky today. In Islamabad, temperatures are at 35 degrees Celsius with a clear sun in the sky, while in Jakarta, the temperatures are steady at 32 with some clouds floating in the sky. And that's all for now. Back to you.
And with the weather update, we come to the end of this bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.